All right, so it is 5:31 and I'm calling this town plan hearing to order. So this is the second public hearing of the select board for the adoption of the town plan. We were going to try to be more technologically advanced, but we still can't figure out how to do all of the things. So if anybody's online, there is a packet also online. Should be under select board documents, right? That has the PowerPoint, not the PowerPoint, but the PDF of the PowerPoint. So you want to follow along there, that would be the best way to do that. So I'm just going to run through this quickly. Most people have seen this already. There's been multiple opportunities to see this PowerPoint and also the town plan. So I'm just going to run through this really quickly, and then we can get on to comments. This is a, like I said, this is the second hearing. We're going to, after we take all comments, we are going to vote to adopt it or not to adopt it, whichever one we decide. A Vermont Town Plan is a 5 to 8 year planning commission prepared and select board approved townwide plan that defines our community's future vision and goals. It meets the state planning goals, and it provides guidance to achieve that through public investments, land use regulations, and other town actions. We want to have one because we can adopt land use regulations such as zoning and subdivision regulations. It designates areas for conservation and development, and it also gives us access to state funds. There's a number of planning goals that the state gives us that we have to address. There are 14 of them. I'm not going to go through all of them. They are online. And this is the part where the input, your input is definitely welcome and needed. You can have comments here. We'll take in comments. We're not going to answer your well, if there's procedural questions, we can answer those, but we're not going to comment on your comments. We're just taking them in at this point. And also, if you want to write your comments instead, you can email them to Karen at manager@putneyvt.org, or you can mail them to the Putney Town Manager, P.O. Box 233, Putney, or you can hand deliver them to the Putney Town Hall, which is at 127 Main Street, if nobody knows that. And those are due by midnight on November 15th. So that's next Wednesday, I believe.
Yes.
I think that's pretty much all we need to go through. So let me open it up to public comments. Are there public comments in the room about the town plan? Questions? Doug?
I didn't want to be the first, but I guess I am.
Somebody
Doug
has to go
Brandt,
first.
I live on Main Street. If you have this, turn to page 8. I have a question, which could be a comment or a question, I'm not quite sure. I have depending on how the conversation goes, I have a solution, but I'll just withhold that if you're going to consider that otherwise. So on page 8, action number 2-8, says explore the feasibility of extending the municipal service area to adjacent lands such as along River Road to enhance the opportunity for further infill development within the village. Keyword there is infill, and I want to underscore municipal service and River Road, because that seems to be the basis for the use of the word infill in what I'm going to present to you now. So just as background, I guess as a caveat, or what do you call it, disclosure, I'm on the, what do you call it, Housing Needs Assessment Task Force, but I'm not representing them.
The VCRD one?
Pardon?
The VCRD one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I have hearing aids, but the echo makes it a little bit difficult for me to hear. So I'm not responding on their behalf, I'm responding on my behalf. I've been doing spackle work and sheetrock and painting, and there's a lot of time waiting for it to dry. So I wasn't going to come tonight, but I happened to have a thought, so I went and looked yesterday, and I went a little further this morning, and I discovered something that might influence you to add 3 words possibly. So given that action 2.8 under natural resources and land use talks about municipal services along River Road possibly to further infill development to further opportunities for further development within the village. It doesn't specifically say for the village, it says for River Road. Now, I made a document to show you here in a second, but I want to move quickly to these pages are kind of backwards. They're stapled together like this. So I did a search on infill, and I found it on 2 or 3, actually on 3 pages, 2 instances, but they're pretty much the same reference to River Road and municipal opportunities. So I looked a little, actually it started when I was looking at the housing section. And if you go to the housing section on page, backwards. Section, it's 3 point something here. Well, here I have it.
Housing starts on page
So yeah, no,
26 or 20.
so if you could hand these out,
25.
there's 6 of them for all of you. And one for you, and one for Robin. I don't have enough for everybody. But what, if you look in the very top where it says all good, but what's missing? It's kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack and not knowing the needle isn't there. What I discovered after reading through this with the umpteenth time was the fact that action number 3-4 talks about explore opportunities for moderate density rural housing in locations beyond the village. That could mean just outside the village, or it could mean if we extend the village, as I had suggested in my recommendations, that could be adjacent to the village and it could answer the question. So the question I have is, does this action 3-4 apply to everything outside of the existing village, or could it include an let's say an extension to the village as I had recommended in the image below? If you're familiar with my recommendation, I found 10 relatively level places you could put a 4-acre building site and put in 9 or 10 units of some sort, as indicated by the little squares, the little yellow squares at the bottom. So there's room for 10 times about 8 or 9, up to about 80 or 90, possibly 100 building places just west of the village, not presently in the village, adjacent to the village. So my question is, does that recommendation include what could be a larger village, as I recommended, or is it just the existing village? Recommendation, or pardon me, action number 3-4.
Do you want to answer that question, Robin?
Well, I would like to respond. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to answer it. Sorry, I'm going to have to shuffle the glasses here. So it says, in locations beyond the village that are well serviced by public roads, shared use paths, or walkways and bikeways. So it's sort of a general goal intended to increase housing in the areas that are not within the immediate village. And for convenience, I think we can use the designated village for that, which is pretty much the area from about the library north and starting up Kimball Hill. But this is intended to increase housing but in the area proximal to the village. So it's not, especially this one, River Road is cited as an example in the other one. It's not in this. So I think this is a more general indication of that we recognize a need to increase housing in the village. And ideally, we don't want that housing to be out in the Tullers. So does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, it does. Let me just propose something and see how I'll just throw the spaghetti on the wall and see how it sticks. What if we were to add the word after explore opportunities for village extension and moderate density rural housing or something to that effect? Because right now, what I'm suggesting in this map is outside the village. It's up on the hill. It's 200 acres up the hill. If we were to go this way. Or it could be any place. It could be down in the flats here. It could be across Sackett's Brook, over closer to River Road. Possibly those. So if we expanded this action to explore opportunities for village expansion and moderate density rural housing, would that make it clearer, or would that detract from the intention?
Yeah, so would that be a substantive change? That's the issue there.
It is an issue, and what I want to offer is that the action items taken together already, I think as Robin was trying to say, addresses the range of options. So we have, for example, under 2.8, exploring the feasibility of extending the municipal service area beyond the current area for infill housing, that's an example. The one that's looking beyond the village is that there are places where we would not readily be able to extend municipal services. It's just going to be too costly, but there's appropriate housing development beyond the municipal service area. So we're trying to say wherever there's appropriate housing, we should be looking at those options. And I'll just note that one of the other important actions that you didn't reference is to do a housing needs assessment and action plan. Well, a grant has been written and submitted to do that. And I would say that is the place where all these issues can be looked at here. The town plan provides a general framing for doing that, but the specifics of what to look at will come in that type of work.
So I don't want to dig all the way down into the minutia. I just discovered that it says moderate density rural housing. Mm-hmm. No mention of the village. I understand your comment about the municipal services, and that is elsewhere in other sections. It's
Yes.
not in the housing section.
Right. We tried not to duplicate the recommendations in all the different sections because they overlap. So you need to take them together.
I don't
is
want
what
to
I
have
would
a
suggest.
Yeah, I don't want to argue the whole case right
yeah.
now. I'll leave this with you.
Yeah.
The recommendation is to add, in some way, a reference to village in 3-4.
Okay.
Otherwise, I was ready not even to come tonight.
Okay.
I'm
This
okay.
is a good comment, and we'll think about it
Thank you.
later. Okay.
So just,
Yeah.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, Ellen.
Robin.
So just for clarity, your suggestion is that the words, referencing the village in addition to beyond the village be added to
One or two words,
Okay,
that's all.
thank you.
It's just, it's a fine point, but
It's
it's,
feeling like it's not quite clear, is what you're trying to say. Okay, then that's fair. Okay. Are there other comments online about the town plan? Anybody have any comments? Well, hold on, online? Is there anybody online? Okay. More comments in the room? I'm sorry, what's your name?
I might not have the most recent iteration of this, but I'm thinking about Kimball Hill. And it's a tricky place to drive up and down Kimball Hill. And I wonder if putting a lower speed limit on it would be a good idea and possible.
That's something that the select board could do on our own. We don't have to put that in the town plan. But that's a possibility. If that's something that people want, I think we would have to do a traffic study, right? There'd be a number of, well, at least we have to do, the select board, that's the purview of the select board.
Right.
So that's something that we can do without putting it in the town
Some places have a
plan.
little blinking thing that tells you how fast you're going.
Yeah, there's those too. Those are fun. So thanks for that suggestion. Are there other comments? What's your name?
Sure, I'm Catherine Steffen. I live in Putney. I'm also the executive director of Yellow Barn. This is really just a comment. I think the town plan is going to be extraordinarily helpful to organizations like mine. Yellow Barn in particular, you all know where we're situated. We are actively pursuing the possibility of purchasing the property that we currently use during the summer. And I just want to thank everybody who was involved at the town plan, because it's going to be so instructive for us as we determine how best to use that property. So no suggestions or edits, just simply a thank you and a comment that I think it's going to be extraordinarily helpful.
Good. That's what it's there for. It's perfect. Okay. Are there more comments online about the town plan? And a reminder that if you don't have comments now, but you read the thing thoroughly and you have a question later, comments are due by next Wednesday at midnight, written comments. So it doesn't look like there's anybody online who has any comments. Are there other comments in the room? If there aren't any, then I'm going to entertain a motion to close this hearing.
So moved.
Second. Second. It's been moved and seconded to close the second town plan hearing for the select board. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you for that. We are going on to a regular select board meeting now. Special regular select board meeting. So the next thing on our agenda is a public service announcement, which is the spill, the oil spill that I think probably most people are aware of by now. But I do have a report written up by Tom Goddard, the fire chief. Can I have order in the room, please? Thank you. So this is incident update, Soundview paper fuel oil spill. As you are aware, on Thursday, October 2nd, 2023, at approximately 15:15 hours, the fire department responded to Mill 1 at Soundview paper for fuel oil leak/spill. It was rapidly confirmed that 15,000 gallons of number 2 fuel oil was actively leaking from the facility's 30,000-gallon fuel tank, which was located within a concrete containment enclosure. In addition, we immediately confirmed the containment enclosure was also leaking, allowing fuel to escape into the atmosphere and affecting soils present between the enclosure and Sackett's Brook and the waterway itself. At this time, facility employees were actively engaged in aggressively attempting to stop the leak from the containment enclosure. As with any such scenario, several specific actions were addressed simultaneously. Fire department members immediately began placing absorbent booms within Sackett's Brook at the spill site specifically, as well as 2 separate locations downstream from the spill site. During this operation, we confirmed that there was no raw product pooled or actively flowing within the waterway. However, heavy sheen pockets were noted to be flowing downstream and collecting along the waterway embankment in several locations. Immediately upon placing booms, we were successful in capturing product. With this primary work underway, we immediately notified the Vermont Hazardous Response Team and the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources in order to report the incident, confirm our initial response and protective measures taken, and request a response to the facility from both organizations. In working with facility managers and environmental representatives, we confirmed a total of 15,000 gallons of product had been within the tank originally. A significant volume of product was within the containment enclosure. Product was actively leaking from 4 different voids within the enclosure wall closest to the waterway. Employees had been successful in slowing the actual escape of product from the enclosure, but were not able to fully stop the flow. It was also confirmed that there was no risk to public health or safety, and all strategies were focused solely on protection of the environment. I know that there was,
There's a second page.
I don't have it.
You can have mine.
Okay, let me continue. Throughout that night, a number of various resources and assets were brought to the facility in order to aid in the emergency response, including an environmental cleanup company who had been contracted to perform other work at the facility. This response focused primarily on continued placement of absorbents within Sackett's Brook and overall protection of the environment. Due to rapid response of the contracted cleanup company, they were able to immediately begin to collect a great deal of standing product within the containment enclosure and the storage tank. As it was identified that product had likely impacted the Connecticut River, representatives of New Hampshire Division of Environmental Services were notified. Friday morning, representatives from the fire department, VT A&R, VT Hazmat, Soundview Paper, and New Hampshire DES met on site in order to review the actions taken overnight and establish response and mitigation plans for the day. A second cleanup company was brought on site, as were additional private contractors as necessary in order to continue the response and mitigation efforts. Cleanup work and mitigation functions have been continual since the time of the spill and will continue over the next several weeks. All mitigation work has been performed under the direct supervision and direction of VT A&R and New Hampshire DES. This oversight and direction will be transitioning to a private environmental engineer contracted by Soundview Paper. One specific function which will likely be taking place is monitoring of private water supply wells in the area, simply as a precautionary measure. Presently, there is no identified contamination risk. The municipal water supply was never at risk. As of Saturday afternoon, all but approximately 2,900 gallons of product have been collected and accounted for. Collectively, we are not able to determine the volume of product that actually entered the waterway. The site will remain active over the next several weeks, and the overall situation will remain dynamic with regards to the needs and priorities moving forward. In the event critical circumstances present which may affect or impact the town, information will be provided to the town manager immediately. Please let me know if there's any additional and/or specific information you would like me to provide. So what I wanted to say was that I know that there was a lot of frustration among town people because most of us were getting our information through the Reformer, VT Digger, and Facebook. And I know that, I personally went down to the river and I could smell oil, but there were no signs. There was no visible presence of anybody actively cleaning up the area. So I found that a little bit concerning myself, and I know that other people did as well. As far as the select board is concerned, we don't have any purview over environmental spills, so it wasn't really something that we could have gotten on right away. This is the first time we've been able to meet since that happened. But I do understand that there seemed to have been a breakdown in communication, and that's all I'm going to say on that. Are there comments on the select board about
No,
this issue?
the only thing is, it just might be interesting to think through like what the communication might have been.
Yeah.
Should have been, so that we could recommend
Yeah.
a way to communicate in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree with you. I found that, I didn't really know who was responsible for such a notice. Karen and I were talking about it a little bit, but frankly, neither of us had all the information.
Right.
And so, it was sort of like, well, who does have all the information? And I still don't know exactly who should have put that out. It might be something that we investigate later, but yeah, I think we should come up with some kind of communication strategy in the future if that kind of thing happens again.
I agree. So I was aware of it first thing Friday morning.
Yeah.
And it should have clicked when I was following the ATV down to the fire department, but it didn't. So, Tom Goddard did try calling me at 8:20 on Thursday.
He tried calling me as well, yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't get either of us, so.
So all I want to say is that I did go to the site on Saturday. I was down at the river, back over there again this week just to see, but this is out of my scope,
Mhm.
and I'm trusting that the state and the mill and Tom is still engaged too. So they're still engaged with the mitigation. It was quick, and they did everything they could. It obviously is an accident, not even an accident, just it, But moving forward, what we need to do is really look at not only how to prevent, but to, have a conversation with the mill.
Yeah,
I did see the tank, because I did go view that too, and it was large.
sounds like it was
But,
large.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did speak to Brian Harlow, who was cleaning up soils over there on Saturday, but, it happened and they
Yeah.
are taking care of it, but
Yeah.
if we can prevent it in the future, it'd be great.
Yeah, and I'm not faulting the cleanup or any of that. I do feel like I think apparently the people that were downstream weren't notified, and I think that that's something that should have happened. And I don't even know who it would have been to do that, but I think that kind of, because they got their information, they literally got their information from Facebook, which is not ideal, because as we know, Facebook is great sometimes, and also a bevy of misinformation a lot of times. So I do feel like we need to work on some kind of community strategy, and that's just all I'm going to say. We don't have to hash that out right now. I'm just saying that I recognize that there was a breakdown of communication, and I heard everybody's frustration about that lack of communication specifically, and we'll work on it as we go. So, is there other comments on the board? Are there comments online? Are there comments in the room? Doug?
I have a question. Do we know who owns or who's the keeper of the booms?
I don't know. Is that the state or is that us?
No, I believe it's the state. I know we put some in Sackett's Brook right off.
Yeah, so we must own some, or
Yeah.
who do, they're, yeah.
But I don't know what they have done at the fire department. I don't know, Eric, if you,
Do you know?
You mean
who-
what's out there now?
Or no, who owns, like do we keep booms? in the
They
fire
have booms,
department?
yes,
Okay.
for small.
For small
Yeah.
things, right? Okay. All right, so the bigger ones probably came from the state?
I would assume, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
The reason I asked was presumably an industry like that who's next to a river with a large tank of oil, should have booms and be ready to, and have practice drills and everything else. The other question I have is, was it concrete or steel, or what's it made out of? It's
which,
huge.
the
So-
tank or there was a containment, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the tank is big round steel, and it's about, I don't know, tractor trailer size.
Looks like it might be underneath a gas station.
Yeah, it is big. And then it's a concrete containment. And that tank sat on these two cradles.
So the container's probably there to catch any oil that drips out.
Yeah.
It's supposed to,
Yes.
yes.
So
Yeah.
we had a double failure.
Yes, we
So
did.
it seems to me, one thought occurred to me, maybe preventive maintenance or replacing the tank periodically. We don't even know how old it is,
Well-
might be a,
So the tank was inspected by a company. So,
There appear to be multiple failures in this.
Yeah.
Right.
And obviously there are things that they probably could be done better in the future. That's probably a conversation with Soundview and maybe the state. Not-
and the fire chief.
And the fire
as
chief.
our emergency
Yeah.
management director,
Hello?
health officer.
Yeah,
And I would almost suspect, I don't know for sure, but there has to be some sort of plan in our local emergency management plan for that type of a situation.
and our hazard mitigation plan, you mean? Or,
No, our local emergency management plan, LAMC.
yeah, but like Eric said, they probably have it for small spills, they probably
Right.
didn't consider a larger one. That's just another thing that we need to consider.
Well,
Pretty tough area to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There, so there's limited spots to put booms in.
Yeah,
So I
maybe
just
not the best place for an
want-
oil tank.
So I
But
think,
anyway, yeah.
We should just thank our local fire department for responding, and they were out there for 13 and a half hours.
You know, I heard a bunch of noises because I live, pretty close to the village, and I
Yeah.
was hearing all these trucks, and I was like, what the heck is going on? If I checked my voicemail, I might have known.
I know, John's like, yeah, there's flashing lights out
Yeah.
there and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did I miss that? 'Cause
Yeah.
I was looking south. I was like,
Okay, are there any other comments?
I assume the state will do an assessment of,
I think that's,
you
yeah,
know,
yes.
that they,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
their, yeah. I assume they're gonna do something.
I think we're gonna hear more about it, okay?
Yeah. Okay, any other comments about the oil spill? And yes, thank you for our fire department volunteers and employees working tirelessly to help mitigate that spill. It could have been a lot worse if they hadn't been there. Okay, so moving on to the FY 2025 budget discussion.
All right, so in your packet, we're gonna lose the rest of our audience.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh,
Sure,
Yeah.
This is hard
You wanna
work,
talk- This is the
guys.
most fun part, the budget.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah, and you do a lot of it,
Thank you.
and we appreciate it. And-
Thank you, Robin.
But I'm gonna be a retreat.
Okay.
I've done my duty this year, so.
You sure have. Thank
It's
you
your-
so much for working
Yeah.
on it.
Sorry to, it is nice to have townspeople paying attention.
Yes.
And I feel guilty for leaving, but I'm gonna.
Bye, Robin.
Thank you. All right,
See you, Doug.
Bye, Doug.
all right.
Here you go.
Yes.
So I just want to make a comment about budgeting. Okay, so I did go to a workshop recently, the LCT, and I got a little chuckle out of the presenter because they were like, so budgeting is like, it's a guesstimation. And I'm like, yeah, it is. So basically, year to year, what I do with our budgets, so general fund budget and the highway budget, because they're two separate budgets, I look at what we did last year, and then I look at where we're at in the current year, and then I have to guess for the next year. And that's kind of how I look at the budget. So there's a lot of different line items that can trigger an impact the number in the budget. In your packet also is a list of towns that are comparable in size to Putney by population. And what we've gone ahead and done is we put in the total operating budget, the payroll expenses, the benefits expenses. Benefits are a huge liability in our budget or expense, and then payroll and benefits together. Now, I'm giving you this paperwork tonight for you to just like look at and just kind of like, you know, not study, but look at it and, you know, just see where I'm coming from when I'm doing the budget. We also put in like full-time, part-time, seasonal, employees for each town. And then on the bottom, there's an average and a median, okay?
Wow.
So these numbers actually came out of the VLCT compensation, benefits and compensation study, which is done by a lot of different towns. It's done in May, and then the report comes out in the fall. Perfect timing for budget season. So there's that piece. The second sheet shows you the towns and the services that they provide. Now, when I look at other towns and I say, oh, population, they must have like the same budget or, same area, like size for the town, because the size of a town too will dictate, your highway department, how much roads, how much maintenance, and how much of a budget, whether it be higher or lower. But this sheet here just kind of shows you like if they have emergency services, fire, police, library, sewer, solid waste, and or water. As you know, sewer and water are paid by the users. So I'm not even gonna consider those, because those are separate budgets anyway. They're not in the general fund and they're not in the highway fund.
Are they in other towns, are they?
I haven't noticed that,
Okay.
but I will take a look at that.
This is a kind of a dumb question, I guess, but what's the difference between solid waste and sewer?
Solid waste is like garbage.
Okay. And we're saying that we have it because we're part of the district?
Where is that? No, we don't have it.
Okay, so that's,
So we do pay an assessment,
yeah,
so, but, that's the other thing too, like comparing these towns. So a town might have a library, but they might only appropriate like maybe $30,000. Our budget, our appropriation for our library is over $200,000. Is that a stink bug that just flew in
it's
my
like
head?
it's some bug that is
Is
like
it on me?
fly. I don't think so. Is it? Oh, it is. You're good now.
Sorry. He can stay alive, but he cannot be on me.
Cannot be on.
Galen, you're gonna have to cut that.
You focused right in on it, right? Right on the bug. Okay.
Thank you, Nate. Oh, I felt it. I'm like, everybody was watching it.
I saw it go behind you. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Anyway.
some of these may be like just an appropriation, but not like a full budget, like we're carrying right now.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is, as best I can, is look at operating budgets and then, ask the question, why are we like $700,000 more than somebody that's the same size? But it's very difficult to determine.
Yeah.
Because everyone is doing something a little bit different. The other thing too is some of these towns may have a lower like long-term debt retirement. So they may be paying cash for certain things where we're still carrying debt that we're paying for every year. So it's a little tricky, but we'll get there.
Okay.
It's really interesting to see the difference in number of employees from town to town.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, going back to this services. Like it says that we have police, but we have a contract, but we don't have a full-fledged.
Right.
police.
We have a contract.
I would think Stowe might have their own police department.
Chester does.
Chester does. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are, yeah, it's not really apples to apples, is it?
It's not apples to apples.
Like EMS we contract with.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
rescue, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And again, Eileen, you're right, because even with fire,
Yeah,
some of these towns might be contracting with somebody else.
right, or they might, or are these all municipal fire departments, or are they, what we used to have was the fire department organization, private?
Associate.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah,
So it
either.
could be something like that too. I mean, I don't know if that's,
Well, I'm gonna have to like really dig deep and look at
Yeah.
that. But,
it's interesting data. It would be
Right.
neat to see if you could extract any lessons from this.
so the ones below are the ones that are closer to, you know, comparable to us. So like East Montpelier, Fairhaven's not on here, but they are definitely, they're up top.
Okay.
I look at Fairhaven and I'm like, wow, they're almost like, and their budget is.
Slightly higher than ours. No, their total operating is lower,
Right,
but their benefits are higher. How does that work?
Because do they have more employees? Yeah.
Yeah, but how are they getting away with less of an operating budget? That's interesting,
well, because they may not have as much debt as we do.
right?
We have 3 bonds, although the water and sewer are through the user fees. We have the gravel pit. That's the other thing too, some towns have just one budget. So their highways in their general fund.
Oh, okay.
And I've noticed too that the highway budgets are a lot lower than ours. So I'm gonna have to do some more work on that,
Yeah,
but this is a
interesting.
start.
Yeah.
The other piece of paper in your packet is medical insurance.
Yeah.
I have to thank Kim Monroe too, because did I start it? I started it a little bit and then she like did some more work on it and then I went back to it and then she created this chart, which I think makes a lot of sense to me, it probably doesn't to you. So medical insurance goes up every year. The town is paying 90/10, so they pay 90% of the employees' costs and 10% is us. Okay?
Okay.
So these are the monthly breakouts, single partners, parent, so that's usually like a single with a child, and then family.
You know, I'm not following this at all.
I knew you wouldn't.
Oh, you did?
I did.
How did you know that I would be
Because
able
I
to
told
follow?
Kim, I said, you gotta make it simple so Peg can understand.
I'm just the only one who admits to not understanding.
And I love that about you, I really do, I think that's great, Peg. And, you know, this is detailed stuff, and I don't expect people to understand it. I don't.
Okay, I mean, keep talking. I'm
Okay.
just like, I might
All
just say, can you just explain a little more? 'Cause
All
I'm
right.
not-
So what I want to tell you, so annual costs, see that? You don't have a green line on
Down,
yours,
but we don't,
right?
yeah, ours is
All right.
in color.
So if you follow this,
Okay, got it, down
so
here,
if you
annual costs.
follow
Annual
it
costs,
down,
yeah.
right? So the annual costs, that's what it's going to cost to cover 90% of employees.
Oh, I got it, I'm understanding it
All right,
now.
and that's the
Okay.
total, that's not what all the employees have to pay per month for,
No,
that, I was gonna say, that's a lot.
no.
But that's the total amount of all the employees' monthly
Yes,
contributions.
that has,
Okay.
yeah, that has insurance, okay?
Okay,
But
got it.
the employee cost, right, for the employees, Eileen, if we stay at 90/10, would be like roughly $30,691.
Right.
So we are at 90/10 now.
We are,
Okay.
yes. So that's that first column
Yeah.
from top to bottom. Now, all this other stuff is just different percentages.
If we were to change
If
something.
we were to consider changing, okay? So the purpose of this spreadsheet is to see how much savings to the town, right? But
What it does to the employees as well.
what it does to the employees. And the other question too is that, for single people, when the town pays for a family, it's not, what's the word she used? It's not equitable. So it's like the single person is paying more
Mhm.
than somebody with a family plan. But
Like per person.
yeah, it's almost like they get penalized. Okay, so I'm gonna look at that a little bit closer. We also looked at if the town paid 100% coverage for the employee only. And then we looked at, so the second, third, and fourth column up top shows you paying for the employee, going with an 80-20 on a 2-person, and then doing a 70-30 on a 3-person. 3 or more, right? That would be like a family, right? So if you did that, folks, right, if you look at the family at the bottom of that square, so that's $922.97, right, per month that the employee would pay.
Wow.
Yeah, times 12. We would not be able to keep employees if we did this.
No.
I'm just gonna say that out loud. So my goal is to retain employees, but also find a way to make the numbers work.
Yep.
Insurance will always go up every year. MVP is less expensive than Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
And until that changes, we're gonna stay with MVP. You know, if we could cut 43%, that would be fantastic. We could save 23% if we went with the very last column, the 90-10.
Yeah.
But realistically,
You're still pretty high for a family.
right,
Do we offer any incentive for people to use, like, especially for partners to use their partner's insurance? Or get, so, like
Yes.
the town of Brattleboro will say, like, if I didn't use their insurance, I would get, I think it's $4,000 of an incentive.
so yeah, we'll pay somebody if they don't take our insurance, $3,000 a year.
Is it worth it to look at moving that up? Would we save money if we
I'll look
incentivize
at
some
that.
people to,
Right.
look at their partner's insurance instead?
Yeah. So we only have 2 employees on family. I think there might be, I don't think I have the breakout, do I? Yeah, I do. So right now, we have 3 singles, we have 5 partners, we have 1 parent, and we have 3, well, we have 2 actually employees on family. I'm carrying a 3rd family in case we hire somebody and they're gonna need family insurance. Because I'm already behind the 8 ball with hiring 1 person and they needed single, and then we had to add a child to a single. So right now, that's not in the budget for this year. So I think, I don't like carrying the extra person, but I think we have to.
Yeah.
And it's
For
in the
budgeting.
highway department only because we know we have to hire somebody.
Mhm.
And it'll probably be somebody young with a family and,
So when do we start that process of the hiring? Because that's been vacant for quite a while now, isn't it?
yep.
I mean, we lose somebody else, we're gonna be in a tight situation.
I'm already aware of things, thank you.
Or two.
And I do have a plan.
Just clarity, the
Sure.
parents section, I guess I didn't, people can add their parents to their health insurance?
No, so that means, no.
What does that refer to?
No, that should say like, single with child.
Oh,
Yes.
single partner,
Yeah.
oh, so that's single with
Yeah.
child and then.
So
family.
basically,
Okay.
it's a
I
parent-child.
was like, that's new.
Hey, it should really read parent-child.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, great, maybe I'll get my daughter to work here. Cover me.
No, it doesn't work that
Oh,
way,
no,
sorry.
I thought this was some new policy thing I missed.
I love your creativity, though.
I mean, it does make sense.
Right.
Yeah, it should go both ways, right?
It should.
Well,
Absolutely.
I know, like, parents can have their kids on their insurance for,
Until
until
they're
they're
26.
26.
Yep.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so there's that piece too.
Okay.
Comment?
I just was at a question. You're using the term children, and I'm just confused. Is that also the term dependents when you use, like, I know when you have to fill out taxes and all stuff? Is it primarily for children, or when you're using the term children, it's only in the child of the household, and you mean dependents in this legal sense? I'm just curious about that clarification.
As far as health insurance is concerned.
Yeah.
They specify child, so,
Okay.
Yeah.
but,
Like, yeah, I guess if you had like I don't know, if you had like a adult person over the age of 26 that wasn't, that was a dependent but wasn't a child,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to add them.
unless they had a disability or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how to
Yeah,
ask.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
It's a good question though, yeah. So there's that. Also in your packet this is the general fund. This is the first round.
Okay.
Um,
I see you have a smiley face on it.
But when I gave you this draft, so you can see how it's gonna evolve and how the numbers are gonna change. There are some numbers I don't have yet. They're mostly like the assessments from like Wyndham Solid Waste, Wyndham Regional Commission, VLCT, and there's other numbers, and I'm working on some grants trying to figure out that number too. But, so basically what happens is with any budget, the revenue and the expense have to balance, okay? To the penny, all right? So when I plug in all the expenses for our budget in the general fund, and then I put in what I know we're gonna get for revenue. Basically, the outliner will be the property taxes. So that is gonna be the number that's gonna balance out the expenses.
That's the amount we have to raise.
That is the
Yeah.
amount we have to raise,
Okay.
okay?
No, and then we divide it by the grand list and we come up with a rate.
Right,
Yep.
so that's kind of where we're at with that. I also wanna let you folks know what I'm thinking preliminary right now. So as you know, I'm contracted to be the zoning administrator here in Putney. We are gonna be looking at updating our zoning bylaws. I did have a conversation with our legal counsel, and I have it in writing. He has recommended that we hire a part-time zoning administrator, 16 hours a week.
Okay.
And I have figured, that number into, I'm gonna be putting it into the budget. It's gonna be a new section. And right now, it's about $25,000.
Okay, and that person wouldn't get benefits because
No.
they're, what is it, 25 hours?
Yeah, I think is it 20, 26 or something like
27?
that? Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So it's gonna be part-time, no benefits. So I'm looking at, a salary of 21,000, supplies, advertising, legal fees, and training, travel, and meetings.
okay.
So about
That's,
20.
would be good addition, yeah.
The treasurer's office, I'm gonna restructure because Kim Monroe right now, who is doing treasurer work, and most of her time is spent doing treasurer, but she's also my administrative assistant. I'm gonna capture the treasurer's office with a salary, which is hers, an assistant treasurer, which we're gonna hire somebody part-time again. Office supplies, bank service charges, bank adjustments, treasurer postage, training and travel. So that's gonna look different. I'm looking at, for a part-time admin assistant. And we'll see how that goes. We do have an outside payroll company.
Right.
And I do have Alyssa Harlow is still kind of helping us 5 hours a week, but
Okay.
Eventually that'll be replaced by an assistant treasurer.
Okay,
The rec department too.
all right, yep,
I will create a new department, and I'm talking with the rec league now to see what their expenses are and what they generate in revenue. But that will be a decision we're gonna have to talk about.
yeah,
And all these are on the table, by the way, for discussion. Because you can tell me that, no, we're not gonna do that. Or you can tell me you gotta shave 15% off this budget.
budget, yeah,
So this is just, it's gonna be a learning curve, but I will coach you. But I think it's a conversation that we all have to have this year.
okay, sounds good. I mean, this is my 3rd year of doing this and I still don't really get all of it. I know more about it than I did when I started, but it's pretty complicated stuff.
When I get the link from that webinar, I will share it with you folks, and if you care to review it, because you may pull some stuff out.
Yeah,
And the other thing too is if you look at a department and, you have some expertise on that or whatever, and you say, hey, listen, can we look at this, and talk about it? That's fine. We can do that.
okay,
I expect the library draft budget by early December. The highway budget isn't gonna change much, and we're not buying any new equipment,
good,
so we're probably not gonna see any new equipment for 2 years.
great. And
So-
some stuff is falling off again from the bonus?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
And then I think the highway department will only have 2 trucks that we'll have payments on. So the biggest debt we have, again, are the 3 bond payments. One for the fire department, which will be paid off in '27.
Oh, that's good.
But the schools contribute money, which takes care of that payment. So we have 4, actually, sorry. The gravel pit, that's gonna be a little bit.
Right, yeah,
And then the water and the sewer bond. And we have no option to pay those off early.
okay. Did you have a question? Okay.
So I would recommend or suggest that you just look through this information.
Yeah.
If you have questions, call me, come see me.
Mhm.
I will share everything that you need.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I will try to, I'll look at the calendar, see when we should meet again on budgets.
Okay.
Is it your preference that I have them all pretty much drafted and then we go through them, or how do you want to do this?
I mean, I'd rather have them mostly drafted,
Okay,
to see what the, to see what the potential damage is, right? And then we can have a discussion about
Yeah.
whether we feel that we need to cut it across the board, or if there's anything that we,
all right. So mid-December,
Mhm.
I would like to have everything pretty
Okay.
much in draft,
Okay,
and I'll come back to you.
so maybe that's a good time to meet then.
Yeah.
Okay,
The audit, I should see a draft
soon, right? Yeah.
of that. And Sam, our auditor, did make a comment about Kim Monroe and said she's very good.
Good.
She is good with detail. She is, things that Sam would have looked for, Kim already had it flagged.
Okay, good.
Because Kim's like about process. She has to understand, like you, Peg, she has to understand from point A to point B and everything in between, you know? And she's got that way with her, so.
Good.
I have a question about, it'd be really useful for me to see like, Putney taxes compared to other the town tax rate compared to the property tax rate compared to other towns. Do we have that?
So
I mean,
we,
that's gonna, the tax rate is based on the grand list.
yeah,
So that is probably not a good indicator so much as the amount of revenue that we bring in. Because the tax rate, so this coming year, the tax rate is actually gonna go down, I assume, because the fair
We
market
hope.
value of our properties
Right.
are all gonna go up equally. So the tax rate will go down, the amount of taxes that you pay will probably stay steady and or go up. So the tax rate itself might not be the best indicator of what you're trying to get at.
so
How do we compare town to town,
Yeah.
how much people are paying attention?
I have a graph of
Yeah.
that in a different supplement, okay?
Okay,
And it's not gonna be apples to apples. And that might be harder than looking at somebody's budget. But I do have,
why is it difficult to compare?
Because say like our,
education is,
the
education
Oh, that
tax.
our education
Yeah.
tax is
So
down.
our CLA is at 83,
Yeah.
common level of assessment.
Right,
So that
yeah,
means
yeah.
that we're off by that amount
Right,
for fair market value,
Right,
right?
right.
And Brattleboro's is at 86. So that comparison is not going to compare. Also, Brattleboro has other revenue sources.
Right,
So they're going to bring down their need for property taxes
Right.
based on that. So,
Right,
so the
right.
rate isn't going to get you where you want to go.
Well, it
But-
might get me where I want to
Well,
go.
you might.
You don't know where I
Yeah, I don't know where you
Yeah.
want to go. That's fine.
No,
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying that there's not that like each town has a different grand list essentially,
Yes.
and the way that it compares with fair market value versus their operating budget is going to be vary greatly. So it's just that the rate's not going to necessarily tell you that somebody's paying more in taxes or less in taxes. It's just going to tell you that there's a difference between the fair market value and it's going to tell you the difference between the grand list and the operating budget. That's all it's going to tell you. It's not going to give you the actual numbers that people are paying in taxes.
I will show you what I have.
If that
And
makes
then
sense.
it's not making a lot of
Okay.
sense, but I think if you show me what you have and then we can work from that and
Right.
so that I can then
Yeah.
understand why
Right.
you
I guess
can.
you could have a town that had a higher tax rate and they could be paying less in taxes, is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, you're gonna explain that to me.
Yeah,
Because I just made it really, really not clear at all. Okay.
it's okay, it's okay.
She knows how I think. She
Okay.
knows what I need to
I'm like,
understand.
I know. It's like, I'll get you there.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
I'm sure you could get me there too.
It doesn't sound like it. It's something, it's like the same thing like over and over again. You still didn't get it for some reason. Maybe if I say it louder.
She's talking Lister.
I am
Lister
talking
language,
language, yeah.
I know, she's talking Lister.
Yeah.
I need an interpreter.
So that's kind of the budget. So I will work towards getting drafts,
Okay.
and then I'll come
Yeah.
back. And
I mean, that's my preference. What, does everybody else have the same feeling?
That-
No, that makes
Kind
sense.
of like something that's, yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
closer to, yeah, okay. Yeah,
okay, thank you.
okay. Great. So do we have any comments online about the budget process so far? Any comments in the room? Any other comments on the select board? Okay, so moving on to community engagement, which has your name on it, Peg.
Yeah, this, I think what we were trying to do here, what I was hoping to do is just at least start a conversation about, particularly about committees, commissions, and boards, right? And how to get people more engaged in that way. And I think what I would like to do is just have a little brainstorm, you know. I don't feel like we need to make a plan right now. I would just like to try to think about all the different ways we could get the information out and get people to sign up for committees and commissions and boards and things like that. And so I just, you know, I've got a couple ideas, but I'd love to start with other people's ideas.
So I am on this Southern Vermont Get On Board program, which is actually trying to get people engaged in not just town government, but also nonprofits. And are you taking? Okay, thank you for coming. So and I think Putney's done this before, where they just basically had a town fair. And you know, food's a great motivator, I hear. So something to that effect, where it's like maybe even just like a community lunch or something like that with you know, town and town opportunities. The other thing that I heard from a lot of people in that group is that they just don't know how it works. They don't know. They would like to be engaged, but they don't know. They don't know the structure. They don't know. You know, they don't know how this board works. They don't know when we meet. They don't know why we meet. You know, so I don't know how to really disseminate that information, but they did have this really cool board that was basically really very simple, who does what. I took a picture of it, I can send it along. So that could, you know, we could do something at town meeting with just that kind of, you know, that board and maybe somebody personing the booth. So those are some ideas that I've taken away. The education piece is something that I would love to do, and I think it needs to come from somebody that's, you know, not going to explain the same thing over and over again in Mr. Land. Otherwise, not me. Somebody who can explain it in really simple terms that makes sense to somebody who's, you know, doesn't intimidate them. Because that's the other piece, is this is pretty intimidating to some people.
What about Meg Mott? Having her do a...
Yeah, she might be a good person to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure she.
Do something at the library, you know,
Yeah.
and Zoom it.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Right.
So maybe get the library, rope the library in. They can do a session.
Other ideas? What do you guys think?
No?
No.
What did you have? What were your ideas today?
Well, I think if we wait for 1 minute, we can
All right.
folks have some ideas.
I don't use a lot of social media, but I do know a lot of people, and I love Putney, the Facebook page. So maybe we could have a bunch of our chairs or vice chairs or whoever wants to volunteer that's a part of each committee that is active do a little piece on what they are and try to engage with the community that responds. And I don't know what to do for like the Energy Commission because it's suspended, right?
Right.
But
Yeah, the Energy Committee. Yeah,
Yeah.
So I think we have to take advantage of like certain opportunities, you know, to like get information out or do, like you said, Nate, you know, BCTV or any public,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah,
where you could have a video.
like a podcast or a video or something like that. I mean, that, is there somebody else, are there, what, can I employ Landmark in some way? Are there
Or private
students?
school.
Yeah, students at one of those schools.
I think we need to engage the
She's got an
schools.
in at Landmark,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so, you know, is there some way to engage students as a project to, you know, to do some kind of media blitz?
Right.
That could end up on BCTV, that would be a great collaboration.
YouTube. Right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Brattleboro has started doing a Town Matters podcast for their, now Brattleboro has a communications director, so,
We have a communications liaison,
all right,
so.
Okay,
Okay.
so work with Rachel.
Right.
okay.
See, Rachel?
So just roped you into making a podcast, no.
What about having periodic presentations or bringing people up to date on current events in the town, maybe even those that are being discussed here on the website?
Yeah, the web, well, we're updating.
Yeah, we're
the
updating the
Yeah,
website.
I have faith that
Some
the
kind of newsletter or
website
something.
is going
That
to.
could be an avenue.
Yeah, yeah. That the website will be able to be more robust in that way in the somewhat near future. But in newsletter, email, we now have collected an email list. What do we have as a town email list?
So
The
we
planning
have from the
process.
planning commission,
Yeah,
we have that list, but the website will allow us to get more
Right.
emails, the new website. That's why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't know. The library has like an email, but I'm not sure they're willing to share it.
Why would they?
The board of trustees.
Well, we could attempt to persuade them.
okay, we'll put
Okay,
you on
sure.
that.
That's my job.
Sounds like you just volunteered.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So Peg, I have a VLCT brochure too, and there might be one out there
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, we've been updating it, but we take it to town meeting,
Mm-hmm.
so we try to have anything we can at town meetings. so
hello,
people-
Whoops, he's come back.
Ah.
Where they went.
Well, now we know.
The bug has an idea.
VLCT
Brochure.
brochure.
Yeah. Volunteer brochure.
Apparently the
Yeah.
town of Townsend, their town clerk put together a really nice brochure, so we can maybe steal that, change the name.
We're sharing. Municipalities are sharing resources, so
Cool.
we're not really stealing.
Okay.
Okay. What town was that?
Townsend.
Townsend.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other ideas? The only other thing I have on my list, I mean, I had some of these things, but not all of them. And the only other thing was really person-to-person outreach. You know, that we sit down with the list and say, oh, well, we need this, and this filled. Who can we, you know, like ourselves brainstorm who we think might be good. I mean, because I know that's how you typically get people on boards and committees, and you reach out to them personally, you know,
Right.
and say, hey, this is, so that's another idea. Where did that thing go?
Does anybody want to name the bug?
Engagement.
Communication.
What does it appear to be? What type of
A
bug?
stink bug.
It's a
It's one of those
stink
stink
bug.
bugs.
Yeah.
I don't know what the real name for a
It's
stink bug
It's
is.
stinky. If you were to squish it, it would stink,
Yeah.
Right.
basically.
We're not gonna go there. We're not going there, Mr. Stink. Here,
Here, take that bug.
take that bug.
Where
Okay.
did it come from, do you think?
Oh, it
They
just came
come
in.
inside.
Yeah.
This is
Who
not part of
knows?
the agenda. We're not talking about
No.
the bug anymore.
Okay. Well,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
going to.
Yeah. I think those are some good ideas,
Those are some
right?
good ideas.
So
And
what's our next step here?
I think I'm willing to put some thought into this. I'm willing to talk with Rachel and kind of come up with a couple things that seem like a good,
Mhm.
a good approach. Good next step. I really think the education thing is really significant.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense. This whole thing doesn't make
It
sense
really
to
doesn't.
the average bear.
Yeah.
Right.
We have, as my students, my student who was here tonight, I had him come because I feel like we qualify as a microculture that has its own language, its own way
Yeah.
of doing things that to the outsider is not really
Right.
very familiar or necessarily, welcoming. And,
or efficient or anything. Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know how we make ourselves more user friendly too. That's something that if we could, we're so restricted by so many of the rules of how to do what we do.
Right. No, I think the timing is good, only because I've been thinking about like zoning and with all the changes that are gonna start happening with the state. People just don't know. And it's like, how am I gonna approach this, People move into town, they think they can just do certain things because they were able to do it in where they used to live, and that's not the case. And now we're finding a lot of things out in the community that don't have permits, and that's extra work. But if we can just educate people firsthand,
Right.
even in a welcome packet,
Right.
which
Yeah,
I've
welcome
been
pack would be good. Yeah.
We've
trying to
talked
have
about
the town
that.
clerk
Yeah.
work on that.
Yeah.
That's another good avenue, especially if we're trying to promote volunteers.
Mhm.
So I would put like a brochure or something in that welcome packet.
So if somebody
and say,
comes in to register to vote, then we know
Yeah.
that they're new, and then you
Right.
just send something out to
Right.
them. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
The listers could, the sale of properties, the listers would know that one too. They wouldn't catch renters, but.
right.
I just wonder how to make it more fun. Like we don't present as a very fun group, y'all.
Fine.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, it's not.
like town business,
Right.
Yeah.
it's so dry and it's so,
It shouldn't be this difficult.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're the funnest crew that's been around for a while,
Yeah.
But I do think that, I don't know how to make it more welcoming. I even think sometimes like that we start our meetings with this, with the statement that we read, which is totally legit, like we're not going to put up with anything,
Right, yeah.
and it's kind of we start with a slap down in a way, like
It is. It definitely is. It's
Yeah.
definitely it differentiates us in the public, and
yeah.
I do that as
For a
for a
reason.
very good reason.
Absolutely.
But I also am aware that it makes us
Yeah.
even less accessible than we would normally
Right.
be if it was just like a big conversation that we were all having.
Yeah, it's like a warning,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But
it
I
is,
wonder
yeah.
if there's a way, I think it's important because we have to
Yeah.
abide by those rules to get our business done, but I also wonder if we didn't also read something about community. If we you know, at the beginning of our meetings, take, you know, if different people brought in one short little thing to read, you know, it's your time this week, you know, you're gonna just read a little something about community or something to
Some towns have a section on the agenda that's select board remarks or select board chair, but it could be select board remarks, and then it could be, you know,
right.
I mean, I try to do that with public comment. That's why I open it up to you guys first. But if it was
Right.
more,
You know, something that was, the intention was to be welcoming, you know, or to speak to why we're doing this all in the first place, you know, because we care about this place that we live, and that's why we're spending our Wednesday nights in this process.
And that's why you're elected, you know? I mean, you know.
yeah.
But I think if we want other people to get involved,
Right,
you know, if we want to encourage other people, I think we have to inspire in them that, you know.
Well, maybe it's a conversation we have with other towns that are successful and see what they're doing too.
Yeah.
You know, just to get a couple ideas, and maybe we can,
Right.
that's a very good question though, you know. I wonder how other towns are, you know.
Well, I think it's an issue across the board.
It is an issue,
You know, that's why
'cause,
they're,
a lot
that's
of
why they've got
towns,
this
yes.
initiative to try to get people
Right.
on board.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I don't know if there's,
I mean, I think there's tons of things we could.
we could also just, you know, try one and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's what we'll end up doing. We're not going to do
Yeah.
all these things, but
Right.
we'll just do
Yeah.
You
something.
know, something else too, Peg, maybe not just looking at Vermont, but looking at other states that, you know.
Right. Well, and we're all kind of stuck in this same kind of, it's a bureaucracy and we have to follow the bureaucratic rules.
Right.
Yeah,
So
and
maybe-
people aren't paying attention to local politics usually, so, you know,
They are or not?
They are not.
They are not.
You know, there's so much noise nationally that it's really
Right.
hard to get any
Right.
traction locally unless, you know, something really spicy happens. Yeah, it's really hard to,
What about proposing to the Commons a piece about Putney that they could put in on like a monthly basis about something important in the town? I mean, a lot of people read that. I mean, I know I'm not being specific enough,
Right.
but it's an organ. It's a communications organ that we might want to think about utilizing as a way to get information or news about the town out there.
Yeah. And I think
I don't
too,
know.
the
I don't know if they
community-
would
I
be-
think of community suppers as another
oh, that's a good one.
place,
Yeah.
you know, where, you know, even if we just, you know, had a button that said, ask me about town,
Yeah.
town,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, town government or
Right.
whatever, you
Right.
know, so that people felt like, you know, I don't know, would that be helpful?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Obviously, we'd have to have the time to go to
Yeah, I mean,
suppers, but,
you know,
but,
somebody,
I mean, there's
you know,
that, I mean, that's, you know, that's, yeah. That's like committing to, you know, sit at the co-op and like, you know, coffee with a cop or whatever, you know, coffee with
Yeah.
a select board member.
yeah.
Which I think is a great idea.
But
It
that's-
does, you
yeah.
know, it requires us to have a commitment, but, you know, I'd be willing to do it once or twice on weekends. I like coffee.
I love coffee.
All right, well, those are a lot of ideas. Feel free to take any of them that you want
Right.
to do. And I'll keep
Yeah, okay.
trying to
Yeah.
think about it.
All right.
Those are some great ideas. Okay, I'll report back
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
if I do. And I encourage anybody else to do the same, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and if there's other ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of things will feed in. I mean, there's so many different things that feed into it. I think with the town hall, when we do the town hall renovation, you know, to keep that, you know, we can prioritize how do we make it user friendly? How do we make it welcoming? How do we, you know, make people feel like this is their thing?
Yeah, you just don't come here and pay taxes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a way in which we think about the design of the town hall that we, you know, that it's warmer and more friendly? I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I just want us to raise that in the way we're thinking about a lot of the things that we're doing to make it more user friendly. Anyway, that's it. That's my soapbox. I'm off my soapbox now. I'll get my civic engagement students on this
I
too.
think yeah, I think
Yeah.
that might be a good
Yeah.
good project for them. Okay. Is there any comments or suggestions online? The only person there is my mother. Hi, Mom. All right. So, are there any other comments on the select board on that? Okay. So that was good discussion. We got some good ideas. We don't need an executive session, do we?
No.
Good. All right, so our next meeting will be November 15th, 2023. That's a regular meeting. That's next week.
Oh my gosh. So
We can make it funner.
No, just like how many weeks have we met in a row now?
6?
In a row? Did
Because we met.
we meet last? Oh, no, we did.
8.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it'll be 3. Yeah. And 24th.
And the 24th.
Yeah, it's been a while.
yeah.
It's been a bit, yeah. And then
And
the
the
18th.
18th.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been, yeah. Well, you know, getting stuff done. Okay. So, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everybody.